What if the man chosen to save the world simply said no? Imagine a storm approaching, a warning ignored, and humanity standing at the edge of a fate no one is prepared to face. Stay with me. Because if Noah refuses the call, the flood doesn't just rise. Every story after it collapses. And by the end, you'll wonder, does humanity drown? Or does something far more unexpected emerge? Before the first raindrop ever touched the earth, the world lived beneath a quiet and growing tension, a silence that felt almost deliberate, as if creation itself was holding its breath. Noah walked among people who mocked every warning, who treated the sky as a loyal companion that would never betray them. But on this day, long before thunder carved its voice into the clouds, something shifted. The air felt heavier, the horizon darker, and a thin, restless whisper threaded through the wind. Noah sensed it, yet stepped back from the command that had once terrified and inspired him. He looked at the empty stretch of ground where an ark should have risen and imagined the burden of obedience, the ridicule, the loneliness of standing against a world determined to stay blind. For a heartbeat, he wondered if refusing might preserve his fragile peace. And in that quiet hesitation, the ancient story of survival bent toward an unrecorded path, one shaped not by wood and faith but by a single choice left undone, echoing into a future that had no vessel to carry it forward. In that turning point, destiny loosened its grip, letting uncertainty drift across a world unaware, hope fading slowly. Before Noah's refusal reshaped everything, the world stood in a fragile equilibrium, a landscape of early humanity stretching across valleys, rivers, and settlements, held together by routine more than harmony. People lived with a distant awareness of the divine, yet their days unfolded as if the heavens never intervened and consequences remained forever delayed. Families traded, argued, celebrated, and ignored the strange unease that sometimes flickered in the sky. Storms came and went but never threatened the rhythm of life, and the land still answered human hands with crops and reliable seasons. Though corruption lingered in shadows, life moved forward with the confidence of those who believed so. Tomorrow would echo today. In this familiar rhythm, no one imagined the sky could turn against them, or that survival might depend on one man who now questioned the purpose he had once accepted. The moment of divergence begins not with thunder, but with a quiet thought that settles in Noah's mind like a slow-forming shadow. He stands before the untouched ground where the ark was meant to rise, feeling the weight of a command that demands everything and promises nothing except isolation. For the first time, he wonders if obedience must always cost so much. The voices of his neighbors drift through the air, mocking, dismissive, certain he has lost his reason, and their certainty presses against him more heavily than the future God has warned him about. He imagines the years of labor, the endless nights, the ridicule carving at his spirit. And so, in a single breath that feels too small to matter, Noah steps away from destiny. A choice made in silence becomes a fracture in history, redirecting the path of humanity and turning a divine warning into an unanswered echo rising toward darkening skies. In the hours after Noah turns away, the world remains deceptively calm, as if the sky itself hesitates to reveal what comes next. A thin haze settles over the horizon, soft at first, then slowly thickening into a dim veil that dulls the sun. Animals grow restless, circling without direction, their instincts sensing what human eyes refuse to see. Noah's family watches him with quiet concern, noticing the tremor in his hands each time he glances at the darkening clouds. Rumors begin to spread through nearby settlements about strange tides rising early and winds shifting in unnatural patterns. People laugh it off, yet their laughter carries an edge of fear. Small puddles appear where no rain has fallen, reflections trembling as if disturbed by distant footsteps. With each passing moment, creation whispers louder, waiting for the vessel that will never be built. Noah carries the weight of his refusal like a silent stone pressing against his chest, every breath reminding him of the choice he cannot undo. His family feels the shift before he speaks of it. They see it in his distant stare, in the way he lingers at the door as if expecting the sky to call him back. His wife watches storms forming on his face, long before they gather in the heavens, Sensing a fear he tries to bury beneath calm words. His sons wrestle with confusion, torn between loyalty to their father and the growing certainty that something unimaginable is approaching. Even Noah's neighbors sense an unease around him, a man who once walked with purpose now moving like a shadow, unsure of its shape. With each passing moment, Noah's doubt reshapes his identity. Whispers spread through the community as Noah abandons the task once spoken with such conviction. Neighbors who once mocked him now watch the shifting sky with uneasy glances, unsure whether to feel relieved or afraid. The farmers notice their fields soaking in moisture that should not exist, while fishermen report tides rising long before the moon calls them. Families gather outside their homes at dusk, scanning the horizon as if searching for an answer in the clouds. Though no one admits it aloud, a quiet dread settles over the settlement, binding every conversation with the same unspoken question. What if Noah was right, and now it's too late? Across neighboring regions, unsettling patterns begin to ripple outward from Noah's land like silent warnings carried on the wind. Rivers swell without rain, pushing against their banks until villages relocate higher into the hills. Tribal leaders send scouts to investigate the strange reports, only to return with stories of animals migrating in massive, disorganized waves, as if fleeing an unseen force. Trade routes slow as travelers speak of dense clouds forming in places once known for clear skies. Political alliances, fragile at the best of times, grow tense as leaders argue whether these omens signal a natural shift or divine displeasure. Beneath every debate lies a growing fear that someone was meant to act and that someone has failed. Generations later, the moment of Noah's refusal becomes a blurred legend whispered by surviving clans scattered across a fractured world. Without the ark, the Great Flood arrives unmitigated, reshaping continents and carving new coastlines that future societies struggle to understand. Civilizations rise in isolated pockets, each bearing remnants of stories about a warning unheeded and a man who could have changed everything. Ancient texts etched into stone speak of a world nearly erased, fueling debates among scholars who search the shattered landscape for evidence of what truly happened. Over centuries, humanity rebuilds slowly, forever marked by the absence of a vessel that never carried them through the storm. In the centuries that follow, Noah's refusal becomes a point of fierce spiritual debate, shaping the faith of scattered survivors who interpret the disaster through fragmented memory. Some view the flood as a final act of divine justice, a consequence humanity brought upon itself when its chosen protector turned away. Others see it as a lesson in divine patience, believing the warning was never meant to be fulfilled but to test the depth of human obedience. Competing traditions rise, each trying to reconcile a God who warns yet allows devastation. Across generations, the unanswered question becomes a cornerstone of belief. What is the cost of ignoring a calling meant for one? In a world reshaped without the ark's legacy, cultures evolve around survival rather than progress. Flood-scarred communities develop rituals honoring the rising waters, carving symbols of storms into their shelters as warnings to future generations. Technology advances unevenly, focused on constructing elevated dwellings, water-resistant tools, and methods of predicting tidal surges. Innovation grows from necessity, not ambition, shaping societies that measure time by the memory of the flood. Shifting scenes reveal a world unraveling beneath a sky that grows heavier by the hour. Waves crash over once dry plains, swallowing roads of cracked earth as frightened animals race toward higher ground. Villagers cling to rooftops while distant mountains disappear behind curtains of relentless rain. Lightning fractures the darkness, illuminating fragments of broken carts, drifting timber, and abandoned settlements carried by rising currents. A lone figure, Noah, stands on a ridge, soaked and trembling, watching the flood stretch across the horizon where the ark should have stood, the storm reflecting the weight of his choice. In the quiet after the storm, one truth rises above the ruins. Destinies can shift on a single moment of hesitation. Noah's refusal becomes a mirror for every generation, reminding humanity that ignoring a calling, no matter how heavy, carries consequences that echo far beyond one life. The lesson endures like a distant thunder. Responsibility avoided is never responsibility erased. As the waters settle and silence claims the world, one question lingers like a shadow stretched across the future. If a single refusal reshaped history, what other moments could have rewritten everything we know? Join me in the next chapter, where another untaken path waits. One choice, one twist, one impossible what if that could change the story again.